Welcome to another video from PEDCard. I'm Stevie B. Happy to have you all with us today. Today we are shooting some Argonauts because it is Mini-Mayhem, the Thanksgiving Argonaut Mayhem on planet Calypso. So I made a video already, but I didn't like the way it turned out, so I'm going to reshoot it with you guys here today, and we're just going to make this quick, down, dirty, and easy. So, I'm sorry, Mini-Mayhem is not Mayhem. So the only thing that is different from what I'm doing right here on screen versus a normal day is, in addition to the regular loot that the Argonauts drop, they can also drop Mayhem and rare Mayhem tokens. Now, the drop rate is absolutely horrendous. It is a very, very, very small amount of Mayhem tokens. It is ridiculously small. I think I've managed to farm a grand total of like 19 tokens so far. It is pretty bad. It's pretty horrendously bad. So let's cover a couple different aspects. First of all, I think it's horrible that they keep calling this Mini-Mayhem. This is in no way related to Mayhem. With Mayhem, you have event creatures in an event instance. Those creatures drop boxes, which have great markup, and the way they affect the loot pool is very unique because they essentially have no TT value. So the boxes are a big, big part of Mayhem. In addition, you can farm lots of Mayhem tokens. Lots and lots and lots and lots of Mayhem tokens, right? Not so much here. We're farming Mayhem tokens, but we're farming them at such a small rate, it's ridiculous. On top of that, with Mayhem, it used to be a competition. Now it's a grind fest. With the grind fest format, we have a mission chain that gives you lump sum tokens for getting points. In addition, there is a daily Mayhem chain that goes through 10 stages that gives you additional tokens, and like I said, tokens will drop like rain as you're in the instance killing the mobs. So that's a regular Mayhem, in addition to things like output amplifiers, which have great markup, and in addition to things like limited Mayhem gear, like limited Mayhem weapons and limited Mayhem armor, which also drops from Mayhem mobs. You have none of that here. What do we have here? Here we have Argonauts that also drop Mayhem tokens now and then. That is it. So to call these Mini-Mayhems Mayhem at all is kind of insulting to the intelligence of most players, I think. Now, I'm not saying it's completely bad. I understand a little bit of what they're doing here. First of all, it is a great way to give people who are a few tokens away from getting something a way to get those tokens outside of the normal event dates. It's also a great way to get players who would not normally do Mayhem involved in Mayhem because they can get a couple of tokens doing non-Mayhem activities, and that might get them interested in doing the actual next Mayhem event. So I'm not saying it's all bad. Plus, it makes money for Mindark, so that's always a good thing for them. So I'm not saying it's all bad. I'm saying from my perspective, from my gameplay, from my style, from the things that I believe in this game, I just think that then calling it Mayhem is kind of a misnomer. It's essentially just something we're doing on a daily basis, plus it has Mayhem tokens involved. So just got one, finally. That might be the only one I get. I have noticed that like they'll drop pretty close back to back. Like you can get two pretty close together, but then to get the third one might take like another 80 kills. So to put this into perspective, I'm at roughly 515 kills, give or take, for 19 to 20 tokens. So that's pretty bad. Normally, I can farm a token every 50 seconds in Mayhem in the actual instance. So big, big, big difference. So I'm not saying it's all bad. What I'm saying is to call it Mayhem is kind of a misnomer. Now, I do like a couple of things about the way they did the first Mini-Mayhem back at Crystal Palace versus how they did it here. And then I like a couple things they did here versus how they did it at Crystal Palace. So the good thing about Crystal Palace, let's go with good thing first, is it was a creature that most people don't get to hunt very often because it's only located at Crystal Palace. It was a creature that has a potential at an Uber item that's unlimited worth buku money. In fact, it actually happened while I was in the dome at Crystal Palace during the first Mini-Mayhem. There was somebody that was in the same dome with me that got a pair of unlimited, what are they called? Not Shadow. Not Supremacy. Unlimited Supremacy foot guards. Those foot guards haven't dropped in like 10 years. Those foot guards are worth 20,000 PED, give or take. So about 2,000 US dollars. And they were absolutely shocked. I was shocked. They were shocked. There was also a chance at the first Mini Mayhem at Crystal Palace of some rare FAPs dropping. That did not end up happening. But point being, those unlimited Uber items were in the loot pool. In fact, somebody even got one as I was standing there. I saw him do it. I saw him swirl. I saw the message come across the global screen. Everything. So that was really cool. You don't have that with Argonauts. Now, there was also a mission chain on Crystal Palace that you could start working on that would give you access to the Crystal Palace Cave. I didn't get it finished, but I did work on it while I was there. So there were some reasons to be there. The downside with the Crystal Palace Mini Mayhem was simply that it was on a taxed land area, and that tax ate you alive. Now, let's look at how they're doing this one. This Thanksgiving Mini Mayhem, which only ran 4 days, it's going from November 24th, 2022 till November 28th. It's on planet Calypso, and it's Argonauts. Well, Argonauts don't have any unlimited Uber item in their loot pool. They just don't. So that wonderful opportunity that we had at Crystal Palace, we do not have that here, even if it was a 1 in a billion shot. Argonauts aren't necessarily something I tell people not to hunt. In fact, for a lot of new players, I think they're part of the progression chain. Usually you start with puny creatures. As soon as you get some skills up, you move on to Exosaurs at North Swamp Camp for those Blazer Fragments and a little bit of markup. And then once you get some defense skills and can use a little bit of a weapons assortment, most people will move on to these level 5 Argonauts that I'm hunting here close to Twin Peaks. And this is kind of the first time that a lot of players in game, I know the first time that when I was in game, I really felt like I actually had options. I could actually log into the game and choose what I wanted to do instead of just having to follow a pretty set, oh hey, kinetic attack, nanochip 1. Partial TT, but still pretty cool. It was one of the first times in game I felt like I had options of how to play instead of just following a progression where I didn't have a choice. And then after the Argonauts, kind of the sky's the limit for you. You kind of get to decide your path from there. So the Argonauts have always been important. I think a lot of people like hunting them because of that fact, because it's a little bit nostalgic back to the days when they were very first beginning to play, that first month or two that they were in game. So there's that. However, they don't necessarily drop the best markup loot. They drop pretty crappy loot. Now, they do have yellow paint. Yellow paint's always a favorite. It does have some pretty good markup, although the demand isn't necessarily where you would want it to be. Paint's a little bit harder to move than you would think. They do drop electronic stabilizing components. I've always had a problem trying to get those sold in any decent quantity, and the markup's really not there on those. And one thing that Argonauts do that a lot of new players find interesting is they drop ironstone. They drop an ore. And there are mobs in game that drop ores and in matters. However, there's not just a ton. It's not the most common thing on the planet. So I know there's a lot of newer players that when they're hunting Argonauts and then they end up with iron, they're like, what the hoo-ha? I didn't go do any mining. No, but Argonauts do have iron in their loot pool. So there's a lot of players that don't even know that mobs can drop ores or in matters, or that we have mobs that do that. Argonauts are one of them. Now, one thing that I did kind of see coming, back at the FEN event almost 5 years ago, the Argonaut claws, the strong and weak Argonaut claws, were part of the FEN event. I don't know if they actually dropped from Argonauts or not. I can't really remember. But obviously the Argonaut claws exist and they're in game and you see them on Cali Trade all the time. See, I got 2 Mayhem tokens almost back to back there. Now I probably won't get one for like 50 or 60 kills. The drop rate's just horrendous. So I did kind of see them. I was like, maybe they're going to do something where the Argonauts do have some kind of a cool item, even if it's not like a unlimited Uber item. Well, they did kinda. They essentially took the FEN Argonaut claw and they made a limited claw called the Argonaut Claw Adolescent Limited. And it has a fairly low profession usage ability. So, I think it's like 15 or 16 Power Fist is what it is required to use it. And apparently those have been being looted. But their utility really isn't there. The DPS really isn't anything to brag about. And it's something that it doesn't just seem to have a lot of demand. So I think the ones that have been selling for like 103, 104, 105%, something like that. So that being said, do I really plan on doing this all weekend? No. I started at 0.00 of rank 19 on my Argonaut Codex. Like I said, early on in my career, as everybody did, I hunted a lot of Argonauts. I actually made it all the way through the old Iron mission for kill 10,000 Argonauts. And then, luckily, whenever I was finishing that up, Codex had just rolled out. So I got quite a few levels of Codex as I was doing those last 10,000 kills for that old Iron chain. And then I haven't really hunted Argonauts ever since then. So it's been since Codex very first came out was the last time I hunted Argonauts. So I was at rank 19 0.00. Now I'm at rank 19 51.2. I'm going to bang out the rest of rank 19. Okay, hey, Restoration Ship 3 Limited. Looks like full TT and a Mayhem token. So I was wrong. I got another Mayhem token pretty quickly, but that scares me because I've been doing this for hours and I know how few and far between these Mayhem tokens are. So this is one of the very few good markup items that Argonauts do drop is these Restoration Ships. So this one is full TT. It's the Restoration Ship 3. Markup is roughly 850%, 900%. So these Restoration Ships are amazing. I had some Restoration Ship 2s from whenever I did the part I was just talking about with the 10,000 kills. I got 2 in 10,000 kills. They were full TT Restoration Ship 2s. I hadn't gotten a 3 before till just now. And I sold both of those on auction last week. They had pretty good markup. I think those were about 530% markup. But other than those Restoration Ships, the Argonauts really don't drop anything great to speak of. They just don't. So from a sheer, is this something that I would come hunt just to hunt for profit? Looking at it from that analysis, no. However, I'm doing it because A, I am getting some amount of Mayhem tokens out of it. B, I'm doing it because I'm working on my Codex progression for Argonauts. And C, I'm doing it because I know that if I hunt at this level with this gear, with this setup, I kind of know what to expect in terms of TT return and loot mix and all that good stuff. So that being said, the biggest takeaway from what I just said is this level with this gear, with this setup. So when this event came out 2 days ago, today's the 26th, it came out on the 24th, it's over on the 28th. Everybody immediately went to Ashy, Jason Center, Minneapolis, stuff like that. And Mindark has Argonaut spawns that are not usually there that they have spawned just for this event. Well, if you go to those spawns are level 20 Argonauts, level 30, 40, 50 Argonauts. And they're shared loot, and that's what everybody has been hunting. Well, again, what have we said about shared loot events? Let's go back to previous videos. If there is a shared loot event, it is set up to drain your PEDCard dry. It is not set up like a normal hunt would be set up. You cannot treat it like you would treat a normal hunt. A shared loot event is designed solely for one thing, to drain your PEDCard dry. So I went, I checked it out, and my initial thought was, probably the higher level the Argonaut, the more often they drop a Mayhem token. I could see that easily being the case. So, and that very well may be the case. However, I did try a couple of the bigger ones, and I just wasn't having success with it. I wasn't getting Mayhem. I didn't get a single Mayhem token from the bigger ones. I was doing the level 20s, 25, something like that, somewhere in there. I think I even did a couple of 30s, and I didn't get a single Mayhem token. So for the amount of money I was losing and the amount of Mayhem tokens I was not getting because it was a fat goose egg, it was very apparent very quickly that this is essentially a way for Mindark to make these shared loot events, which drain PEDCards dry, slap the name Mayhem on it by adding Mayhem tokens to the loot pool, and then get people to blast out their PEDCards. Which again, for Mindark, great idea, because it gets people who would not do Mayhem tokens, and it gets them involved. And it also makes Mindark money, reduces the amount of liabilities they have to a lot of players. So if people want to play stupid, that's on them. That's their problem, not mine. So I immediately came here, and I was like, you know what? I'll bang out some level 5s. If I can loot some Mayhem tokens, it's not going to be anything like the number of Mayhem tokens I would usually get during an actual Mayhem. I know that going into it. So if it's got an absolutely horrendous drop rate, I'll do 1 rank of Codex. If it's got a decent drop rate, I might do 2 or 3. Well, here we are. I'm probably going to finish out rank 19 and just be done with it. But I'm not going to do it at those shared loot level 20, 30, 40 Argonauts that are killing everybody, draining PEDCards dry, and then be able to brag that I got, 6 Mayhem tokens out of it. The other problem is, again, shared loot. Well, I saw way too many people for the number of Argonauts that were spawned. And there have been many people complaining that the spawns that are there are mixed in with other creatures all around them. So it's not even just a lone spawn. So that's problematic. And one thing that I noticed was happening is a lot of people were shooting. A lot of people were spending the PED to do damage and throw, DPS downrange. But then somebody else was coming in right behind them with far superior DPS, taking the vast majority of the kill. Well, who do you think is going to get the Mayhem token? It's not going to be the little guy doing a little DPS. It's going to be the guy that does the most DPS. Just like whenever we used to have the practice instances, the boss would spawn, and a problem that we had with the practice instances is you'd be in there for 35, 40 minutes. You'd finally get the 90 kills. You would spawn the boss, and about the time you start shooting the boss, you'd get it 25, 30% of the way dead, and somebody else with a much bigger gun would jump into your instance, and they would still kill the boss. Well, the boss was good for 1 Mayhem token and 1 strongbox. And whoever did 51% of the damage always got the Mayhem token in the strongbox. So people would come in and still kill the boss. You just wasted 35, 40, 45 minutes of your time, and quite a bit of PED, taking the boss down from 100% health to, let's say, 70, for a guy to come in and blast it in 6 or 7 shots and take all the good rewards. So that was a real problem with the old practice instances. And that's essentially the same problem that they're having right now with the shared loot event, because people are coming in and essentially just doing more DPS, so they're the ones getting the token, which is why people are even bothering to do it in the first place. So without a daily mission, without a mission chain, without boxes in the loot pool, and without that chance at that uber unlimited item worth tons of money, this just is not Mayhem. This is hunting Argonauts with Mayhem tokens in the loot pool. Now, that being said, we do have a Mayhem coming up right around the corner. So quickly that I almost want to cry. Merry Mayhem is usually the longest Mayhem of the year. It usually runs from about December 10th-ish till about till about January 10th-ish. It's about a 30, 32-day Mayhem, something like that most of the time. It's twice as long as any other Mayhem. Most Mayhems are about 2 weeks, and this one's usually about 4. They announced Merry Mayhem, I believe, day before yesterday. And this year, it's not starting November 10th. It's not starting December 10th. It's starting November 30th. And it's going all the way till January 10th. Usually it starts right around my birthday. So I can usually figure right around December 10th, December 11th, December 9th, somewhere in there. And I can usually figure it'll go to about January 10th, January 15th, depending on how the calendar falls. Not so this year. This year we're starting it a week and a half early on November 30th. And we're going all the way till January 10th. That is a horrendously long Mayhem. Almost too long, I would dare say. So, that said, why would I really waste a lot of time with this to collect a few Mayhem tokens? I looked at the mission chain for Regulite for Merry Mayhem 2022. It's 200,000 points, just like last year. And if you add up all the tokens for the Regulite chain, it's just shy of 10,000 tokens. So you get the Regulite chain, you bang out the mission chain, get your 200,000 points, and of course we know that they have nerf points. Obviously that happened at Halloween. I expect that to be the same for Christmas. But even with the nerf points, once you hit those 200,000 points, but bing, bada boom, you've got almost 10,000 tokens in your pocket. Well, I can probably do that in somewhere between 4 to 6 days, depending on how lucky I get with the point awards, right? So if that's the case, why would I waste 4 days of my time for a couple of hundred Mayhem tokens when I can more or less relax this weekend, gear up for Merry Mayhem, which starts Wednesday, and I'll have 10,000 tokens in my pocket within a couple of days? It makes no sense. The cost per token is vastly, vastly higher. In fact, somebody even said on the forum, if the cost per Mayhem token was the cost that we're dealing with Mini Mayhem, then the value of Mayhem weapons would be vastly, vastly, vastly undervalued. So the cost per token for Mini Mayhem is vastly higher by a large magnitude than it will be for a regular Mayhem. Again, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying Mini Mayhem is a bad idea. What I'm saying is to call it Mayhem is a misnomer. It's just doing something else with Mayhem tokens in the loot pool. That's all it is. So luckily, there are places you can go that do have Argonauts on tax land areas. I'm not saying avoid those. The land area owners bought those land areas for a reason, and whatever promotion they want to do is fine. What I'm saying is I like the fact that this is an untaxed thing that I can do, and that I don't have to do these shared loot mobs that Mindark wants me doing. If everybody else wants to do that, that's fine. I can do non-shared loot mobs somewhere else. I don't have to do the level 30s. I can do the level 5s. I like that I can work on my Codex progression. Do I wish they had picked a little bit different mob? Yeah, I wish there was something that had a little bit better loot. I wish there was something that had a different loot mix. I wish there was something that had a chance at a rare uber unlimited item. That's not what they picked. They picked this. And even if it was a mob that did have a better loot pool to it, or a better loot mix to it, the markup on almost the entire loot pool would go through the floor, because of how many people are currently hunting this creature, right? That's the problem with events. But those things can be negated. So overall, am I a huge fan? No. Is it something I'm going to dedicate my entire life to? No. Am I knocking out a Codex rank, getting a couple of Mayhem tokens, and kind of relaxing, chilling, gearing up for Merry Mayhem 2022? Yes. So that said, I'm going to finish up rank 19. When I'm done, I've got some more videos I'm going to be shooting for you guys. There's a new crossover chain with Next Island and Cyrene. I'm going to go knock that out real quick because it should only take me a couple hours to knock it out. I want to make a video about that. There's some cool stuff there. A few other things I want to cover in game. I want to get some content up for you guys as fast as I can because obviously Merry Mayhem is going to consume my life for the next 45 days or so. So for the next 45 days or so, I'm going to be trapped in a Mayhem instance. As of Wednesday morning, I will not be coming out of that Mayhem instance for about 45 days. I am paying a horrendous amount of money to do this Mayhem pretty much nonstop. So that being said, if I'm going to spend the money to do it, I'm going to get my money's worth as much as I possibly can. So that said, you know, I'm just going to leave it for there. If you would like to participate in Mini Mayhem, that's on you. If you're going to do it, you don't have to do those big shared loot mobs. I think the shared loot mobs are specifically there to drain people's PEDCards. I do not think it's smart. I do not think it's wise for the average player. I think it's great for Mind Arc. But if you're somebody who's trying to play smarter, not harder, especially if you're a lower level player, there's nothing wrong with the lower level Argonauts. It's not like if you hunt a level 50, you're going to get vastly more valuable loot than you're going to from a level 5. That's just how the Argonaut loot pool is. So I'm going to leave it there for today. Sip, sip, smack, smack. You all know the rest. Be sure and hit that bell icon and subscribe to the channel because every subscriber matters, and hitting that bell icon lets you guys know when we post new content. We really, really appreciate every single subscriber we have. Also, be sure and hit that like button because there's always a hater hitting the dislike button every single time we upload. So we really appreciate every Stevie with every like. Also, head over to earnped.com, the best place where you can earn PED online. And when you do, it helps to support us because when you earn, we earn. And that's the best way you can support us. We were not the first, nor are we the only place where you can earn PED online. So when you choose earnped.com, it truly means a lot. So we're going to leave it right there. We'll be back with more for you later this week. Till then, sip, sip, smack, smack. Y'all know the rest. Take care, Stevies.